Okay, so again, here's the question I want to start. Has anyone here ever made a goal or ever felt really passionate and excited about changing something in their life and it didn't really work and it didn't really change? Has that ever happened to anyone here?
Yes.
Every day.
Okay, alright. This happened to someone once. Okay? Me too. I shall admit. Right? Maybe it was after Yom Kippur, you're like, I'm always going to go to Shachar's Minyan. Maybe it was, I'll never speak Lashon Hara ever again, right? Or I'm going to do that marathon, never going to eat chocolate cake ever again, no more, right? And then a day, a week, a month, you're back to the old you. All right, because what happens? Why do we stop? What are we missing?
It's difficult.
It's hard. So we lose our
Motivation.
Exactly. We feel really motivated in the beginning, and then it depletes, and we get sad, we get down, we get tired, we get lazy. Life sets in, and it's gone. So the question is, how can we overcome this natural tendency of ours to make new habits that will actually last? Okay, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think there's many ways you can go about this, but I think one of the main problems that a lot of people make, one of the mistakes people make, is they focus on the outcome and they don't focus on the process in getting there. So for example, you say, I'm never going to speak Lashon Hara ever again. Or I'm never gonna, I'm gonna, I don't know, what's a very general goal that you make?
We're going to be healthy.
Be healthy. Be really nice from now on. Right? It's all about the goal, but it's not about the incremental steps to get there. And it's not about focusing on building the bones, the muscles, i.e. the habits, which will get you there. Yeah? Everybody good? Okay. And that brings me to a beautiful pasuk in Mishlei, which the Vilna Gaon has an awesome commentary. So the Vilna Gaon writes, in Mishlei Daled, Chafvav. I'll read it in Hebrew, but then the English is the cool part. Pales ma'agal raglecha, v'chol derachecha yikonu. Which Shlomo Amelech in Proverbs and Mishlei is teaching us. The way Sefaria translates it is, survey the course you take, right? Watch after the way that you go in life, and all your ways will prosper. That's 100% true. That's a whole different shir. Silas Yesharim, Hitbonenu, thinking about your actions before you do it, 100%. But the Vilna Gaon, who's the Gra, the greatest, one of the greatest rabbis of the 18th century, explained it like this: Pales magal raglecha, change your raglecha from a language of hergel. Hergel means habits. Okay, remember that. Hergel equals habits. Change your habits from a lashon of regel, which means your feet, because your feet walking is like a natural habit, the most basic habit. Change your habits, and then all of your ways will be prepared. So the focus is not just to think, but to change the actual way you walk, the way you have your habits, and then life will be different. Okay? So far before positive psychology and William James, which we're going to talk about, the Vilna Gaon is already saying you got to focus on the actions. Okay? Everybody with me so far? We're good? Okay. Now I want to bring the Mashiach right now, because I'm going to be bringing See, the Vilna Gaon wasn't such a fan of Chassidus. Right? I just davened at his shul, the Gra shul. But right next to it is the Breslov shul. So they're right next to each other. But in the 1800s, they weren't such good friends. Vilna Gaon was a big misnagid. He didn't like Chassidus. So I also want to bring the Mashiach a little bit. So I'm going to read Rav Shlomo Carlebach, who is a little bit of a Chassid. And I'm going to read what he has to say. Oh, got the right page. After that, I have it in English, so you guys can see later. And he also talks about this concept of breaking our habits and changing our habits. Okay? So I'm going to read it. He's talking about in the concept of... did I get it? Okay. I want to start new. He He's talking about on Sukkot, after Yom Kippur, you have this new energy, you just want to start again. I really want to change my actions, right? But what's my biggest problem? My habits. I'm used to eating that chocolate cake, and it's really hard for me to stop. The biggest thing which subjugates us in life is habit. Your bad habits make you a slave to them. So now we're going to get a nice Hasidic drush. You remember what Avram Avinu taught those 3 idol worshippers who were in the desert? Wash your feet. Right? Sometimes on sukkahs I make everyone wash their feet before you go into the sukkah. Right? So wash your feet. And all the Rebbes say, Regel hu min shon. Can you guess? Regel is from a language of? Hergel. Oh. So I found this, I was like, Gewalt! Baal Shem Tov and the Vilna Gaon said the exact same thing. They weren't so different after all. Klomer, rachzu atzmechem mereglechem. Change your habits. When he was washing their feet, he was saying, change your habits, and your life will be changed. That's what he did when he was washing their feet. That's what we do when we're washing our feet. You want to start again? Change your habits. Okay? Good. Come on. Now, tonight I'm going to focus less on changing our bad habits, because that's really a whole shiur in itself. We will touch upon that for sure. It's very related, but a little bit more we'll be focusing on forming new habits. Because what I feel is once we start having good habits, our bad habits will fly away eventually. It will be replaced. So I find that a more effective approach. But it's also important to think about bad habits. Okay? Any thoughts, questions, or comments up to at this point? Okay, we're good. Awesome. And in general, like I said, I don't know if I necessarily intend on blowing anyone away with any crazy new information tonight. But like Mesilas Yesharim says, it's really important to review the fundamentals and then put it into practice, like change our habits. So at the end of the shiur, what we're going to do is actually practice this and bring it forward for together with the next week. Which, by the way, before the end of class, we'll also have to do a check-in with everyone about the gratitude journaling. Okay, so we'll do that. Don't let me get away with that. Okay, Sababa. So it turns out that the Holy Rebbes were not the only ones that picked up on this idea. Also, the Rebbes of psychology made this same point. Okay, so has anyone here heard of William James? Okay, Rob gets a sticker. Okay, so William James, you want to tell us a little bit about him? Or?
Oh, wow.
No pressure.
Yeah, so I think he lived in the 19th century. He was,
got it.
yeah, sorry?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was a philosopher, but I think he really focused on our internal experience. And I think he also wrote kinds of religious experience, if I'm correct.
The varieties of the religious
experience. So, so he was interested in, philosophy, but also, what we as humans experience. And, so he was really one of the first modern writers to write about psychology.
Absolutely. So he's a psychologist, a philosopher, and interested in religion. Maybe some consider him one of the founders of psychology. And he was a Harvard psychologist, which is cool because a lot of the studies I'm using are based on Tal Shachar and Sean Akers' books, which are also Harvard psychologists. In any case, what he says is something very powerful. It says humans are all just bundles of habits. That's what we are. We are all just bundles of habits. And I found that the Vilna Gaon said the exact same thing. He said, habit rules over everything. Okay. So, to put that into scientific language, in 2006, there was a university professor at Duke who measured in a day in the life, how many actions do we do based on thoughts that we think about and then we do it, and how many things are done based on just habits, automatic, on autopilot. So can anybody guess what percentage of our day is just things that we don't even think about, we just do naturally?
80%.
That would have been good because I said everything. But close, half, 40% of what we do is based on just things that we naturally don't even think about twice. Like, let's just go through our day. I mean, it depends how you define habit also.
Yeah.
But go through your day. You wake up. You like look into the mirror and start thinking, should I wear clothing today? Like, no, you just wear clothing. Okay, you might think this clothing or that clothing, but you put your right foot forward. You put your left foot. It's just natural, right? You brush your teeth. You don't think about that so much. Maybe some people do, right? But eventually, that's a habit which is formed over time. Yeah, so much of our life is habits. And therefore, if we learn to utilize our brain and change our habits, we will then have a happier life. It's not that one person's a happy person, one person's a sad person. It's just changing our habits to get it to the happy habits, the habits which reinforce happiness and joy. Everybody good with that so far? Yeah. Whereas John Dryden, who was a British poet, said, "First we make our habits, and then our habits make us." So all we got to do is change our habits, and then our habits eventually start just being who we are. And we don't even think about it twice, right? Or, in the words of the Sefer HaChinuch, very famously, "Acharei ha'peulot nimshachim halevavot." After the actions come the heart. And he's explaining why it is that so often we're asked to do things that even when we're not in the mood to do it, right? Let's say daven, even when you're not in the mood to daven. But eventually, if you start getting to the habit of doing it, the heart will get drawn afterwards. But very similar type of concept that we've been talking about. Now, before we go on into how this works neurologically, I'm just curious, has anyone here ever had an experience like that, where they thought there was something they couldn't change, they changed the habit, and eventually it just became natural for them? Has that ever happened to anyone here?
Or with reading books that have, like on Shabbat, I made an effort of not reading secular books.
Pretty ishkach practice. In our afternoon chabura today, that was what we talked about, learning books on Shabbos, which never comes up.
I mean, I mean now I'm an English major, so sometimes I have to read books, but for about 3 years I didn't read.
Awesome. Yeah. I also had to take that custom upon myself at some point. And then once I violated it, and I did bad. So it was like a sign from Hashem, Torah for Shabbos.
Usually for me it's the opposite. I don't read novels on Shabbos because during the week the only stuff I read is Torah. So
Okay.
yeah.
There is one Rebbe who actually did that also. It's an interesting story. Okay, cool. Fine. So anybody else have a habit which they built? Yeah.
I used to like right after Shabbat, like go on my phone like immediately. Of that. Then I made it a thing that I do very often now to not like do malacha until I hear a bell.
Great. Amazing. Anybody else have a habit that they've built?
Well, I exercise every day,
Amazing.
and yeah, now it's almost like if I don't, my body, it doesn't
like
feel
missing
good.
something.
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a similar when I was waking up early and doing nates.
Yeah.
So it was like also, especially early in the morning, your body craves it.
Yeah.
If you get to bed on time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was similar. That's why it was a little late. I was running to Marv, doing my laps, and anyway. But yeah, awesome.
I guess it's having a more holy morning routine where just like you wake up, go to chakras, learn Torah for a few hours.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the whole thing. And so I guess even more so now, since I'm not learning full time anymore, keeping that habit going
Mm-hmm.
It's important.
Amen. By the way, what we're doing now is really important actually because we're convincing our brain that we have more ability to change our habits than we thought we did. Just talking about it reminds ourselves how strong we can be. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna keep going. For me, thank God I've had a bunch. One is recently I started going to the mikveh, and it just became a habit. And now it's like I go to the mikveh before I daven, and it's just easy. I don't even think about it. Or cutting out sugar, like added sugar from my diet, was a hard one.
Right.
But eventually it just became like, it was really hard because I really love iced coffee. I really love iced coffee. But now, like, it's just not worth it, you know? And like my body would react, you know?
You used to really love ice coffee.
I still really, part of me still loves ice coffee, let's be honest. And so many other problems, so whatever. It was like a slow process, but eventually it just became natural. And, you know? Okay, good. So let's talk about a little bit how this works neurologically. So within our brains, we have billions of neurons, and they're internet connected in every way, and they form neural pathways. So again, I'm not an expert at all on this. I'm just reading to you what the experts say. Electrons travel down these pathways, delivering the message that makes up our every thought and action. So there's all these firing right now. The more we perform an action, the more connections between the corresponding neurons. So the more I start shooting those free throws, eventually it just becomes faster and faster and faster, and I can just hit the free throw, which is ironic because I'm terrible at free throws. It's because I never bothered to just shoot or practice. In any case, or as Sean Aker said, cells that fire together, wire together. So as soon as they start shooting, eventually they become more interconnected. And the stronger the link, the faster the message can travel down the pathway. And that's why something seems second nature. It's not really automatic, it's just like once you've, every day just wake up and go exercise, your body just knows how to do that quickly. Or walking, or talking, all of these things. Okay, we're good so far? Okay.
Good.
Amazing. So a little bit more in terms of how habits work on a psychological / biological level. So it's a great book, and it's called The Power of Habit: Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. And this is how he basically breaks it down. In terms of forming a habit, let's think of an example. What's a habit that some people here have here? It could be a good habit, it could be a bad habit. Let's pick a bad habit. Anyone here have a bad habit? Okay, give me one. Throw me one. Sugar. Excellent. Let's say my old iced coffee addiction. Right? Okay, so let's start with that. So habits begin with a cue. Okay? Step one is a cue. What's a cue? A trigger, a signal to our mind that it's time to do this. Okay? So when was my cue for iced coffee? Anytime it was really hot. I was walking in town and I saw Kofizz or Kofix. And especially if I was in a bad mood, my willpower was very low. Or at a time I didn't even know what sugar was bad for me, so I was like, why not? And seeing 5 shekel equals super cheap, equals in my brain super Jew, awesome, right? So all those are cues which got me to go buy that iced coffee. Okay, that's the cue. Okay, once the cue happens, there's a routine, which could be physical, mental, or emotional, which is really like the cue is the thing, and then buying the iced coffee is that routine. It's the action. Okay, and then finally there's the reward. What's the reward for iced coffee? Delicious. Everyone after this is definitely going to go buy some iced coffee. I've talked about it so much, but hopefully it's too late at night. Okay, so let's review. The cue is seeing the store of the Kofix. The action is
Buying and drinking.
buying. The routine is buying, and then the reward is
Drinking it.
drinking. Delicious. The good vibe I get. right? And apply this to everything in life, right? There's always one thing which tells my brain it's time to do that, and then it becomes natural, and then there's a reward. So if we change any of these elements, we can change our habits.
There's a lot of habits that you don't get a reward from as well, though.
You must get something, or else you wouldn't be doing it. It might not be as,
Saying what if you want to create a habit, so if you're not doing it, you're not gaining anything.
Right,
If
exactly. So you need to create.
Somebody doesn't daven in the morning, they're not gaining anything.
Exactly. So you need to create a reward. For some people, it's internal, right? The reward is that good feeling you feel about yourself. Like I have two things going for me. One, I feel good after I die. I feel good about myself. And two is I feel bad about myself. Good old Jewish guilt if I didn't daven with a minyan, whatever. So those are my reward and punishment cues, things going for me. Now, to change my habit initially, if that wasn't strong enough, I might need a different, more tangible thing to get me to be davening with a minyan. Like, for example, a sticker chart, right? And thus, my Usher Yotzer sticker chart. Because, as you can see it as you exit the bathroom, right? The idea is, I have the motivation and desire to say Asher Yotzer with Kavanah every time. I know it's what Hashem wants. But I have other things that also are in my life, like I'm overwhelmed, I have this to do, I have that to do, I forget, I'm forgetful. But by a very physical, tangible thing that I'll see every time, and knowing that I'm going to get to put a sticker chart up and brag about it and show all my friends how cool I am, that's definitely enough to raise my statistics of Asher Yotzer Kavanah way up. I'm saying that seriously. It literally motivates me. Even though I don't get anything from the sticker chart. I get a smoothie, but I anyway can buy a smoothie. So, anyways. So that's changing the reward can change the habit. That's one way that we're going to talk about. Okay. And before we talk now about, I guess, the crux, which is crucial ways to form new habits, I just want to go on a little bit of a side point and bring a little Torah into this and just point out that this is one of the reasons why I love halacha. This shir right now about how habits change our lives and not thoughts and not ideas and not TED Talks and none of that, not inspirations, none of that matters. What matters is changing our habits. The TED Talks are cute, they give you the motivation, the ratzon, but the actual, where the battle is fought, is on the battleground of habits and changing our habits. And that's why I love halacha. Okay, how so? Because what does halacha do to us? It forces you to have certain habits, especially if you've grown up with these since you're a little kid. But even if you're a Baal Tshuva, you have no choice. You start keeping Shabbos. If you want to be a halachic Jew, you have to, to put the cell phone down on Shabbos. You have to put the cigarette out on Shabbos. It pushes you around, so to speak. And then, ultimately, once you've already formed those habits, you can then go and embrace the meaning behind the habits and learn why we keep Shabbos and why we daven and why, for sure. But we don't have to battle with it because the battle's already been won by halacha telling us. Assuming a person has committed to become a halachic Jew, then they're already there. They don't have to make that struggle. Yeah? Everybody with me? Of course, this also causes a problem. What's the problem of halachic habits?
It becomes too automatic.
Exactly. It becomes rote. It becomes a habit. Right? So the problem with when you do anything too often is that it just becomes natural and you just start saying Asher Yotzer without thinking. You start davening Shacharis and by the end of it, you're at the end of your Shemona Esrei. And that's what Nathan Cardoza has a beautiful article about this. He said it called "Why I'm Taking My Kippah Off," why he wants to take his kippah off, even though he doesn't take his kippah off. But he says because it's become meaningless to him. He just wears it. It doesn't mean what it originally meant when he first put it on, which is a big problem.
I mean, the opposite could also hold true. Like if you want to cut out sweets, you have your iced coffee addiction or your ice cream addiction. So like. If you know you're going to go to like a big fancy thing, like, your wine and cheese event, where there'll be lots of dairy desserts. Like, have a nice turkey breast before you go. And then, that way halacha will, actually hold you back from, eating any of that because you can't eat that stuff because you purposely do that. So it's still kind of like robotic in a way, but still.
Yeah. Okay, you could do that. Pass the remote. I'm just gonna turn it a little cooler here. Awesome. Thank you. Yes, that's a tricky trick. One more thing. So my answer to that problem, by the way, is not to cut out the habits, but just we need to constantly work on making those habits meaningful. Right? So it's not, okay, don't stop davening because it's meaningless. It's we need to constantly be learning about davening so that we'll always have refreshers to make it meaningful. I don't know how to deal with this, but whatever. So yes, there's a problem, but that doesn't mean, throw it out. It just means, we have the habit. Okay, we know Shemona Esrei by heart. Now we got to learn about it. We know Shabbos. Now we got to constantly learn about Shabbos. We know that's what Torah does. It constantly makes it new and fresh, so it doesn't just become a road habit. Okay, but that was just a little side point. I thought about it because there was an argument between. I was watching a YouTube video between Jonathan Sacks and who's the famous atheist, Richard Dawkins. And Dawkins is saying that people shouldn't be raised in religion because it's not fair. You're not giving this kid a choice. And what Sacks responded, I thought quite brilliantly, was, did you teach your kid English? Right? And he says, yeah. He said, because, well, you're basically enslaving him to a certain thought pattern and certain things. But that's a gift in a way because he won't have to struggle with learning English. So to me, I think I give him the gift of Judaism as a halacha, and then it's his choice what to do with that. Should I embrace it or not? But anyway, I thought that was a nice perspective. Anyone figure out how to do this?
Sure.
That would be great. All right.
I think it's the 2 minutes before we go back on.
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's make David the.
That's good.
Man.
It's way too
Yeah,
minutes.
it's on a different boat. Okay, good. So now I want to give you, from a few books and YouTube videos that I've been watching, 5 powerful tips as to how to make habits stick. How to make them sticky. B'ezrat Hashem. Okay. So one we've already alluded to a lot, and that's called don't focus on willpower. Don't focus on discipline. A lot of people say, I gotta change, I gotta be harder, I gotta learn more, Musar, safer. That's not the key. Rather, focus on introducing rituals. Okay, the first thing is to ask yourself, what new rituals or habits can I do that I'll define it. A ritual requires defining very precise behaviors and performing them at very specific times, motivated by deeply held values. Okay? You got to find out what's the roots and why am I doing this? Okay, and remind yourself of that. And then focus on a specific action or ritual that you're going to do and give it a time when you're going to do that. Right? So, for example, in sports, good sports players have rituals. Right? In baseball, they have all these weird things. But you stretch before, you stretch afterwards. Good basketball players have their workout. They take 1 million free throws before the game. If you want to be successful, you get into these. This is what I always do, and no matter what. So again, it's because if you just focus on willpower, eventually, like we mentioned before, you're gonna cave in, and it's gonna eat at you. If you have no strategy and just like, I don't want to do it, you may win in this battle, but it's going to end up having a bad effect in other effects in your life. What a lot of studies show. So don't focus on, obviously you need desire and you need some sort of willpower, but that's not the focus. The focus is on what ritual am I going to embrace. Okay? That's number 1. Now this I really, really liked, and it was really, really helpful. It's a great YouTube video. I'm happy to share it on YouTube, on our WhatsApp group, by BJ Fogg. And he calls it the right after ritual, the right after effect. What does that mean? And this is like a tiny nuance, but it makes such a big difference. What he says is, link your new action that you want to do to something which you already always do. And then right after that, you will do the new action. Because it's very easy to remember once you do, right after. If instead you do, at some point I'll do it, or before even, it's not as effective. So just, for example, we did gratitude journaling last week, right? Did anybody ever mess up and not gratitude journal at some point? And like not do it every night? Okay, me too. Awesome. Rob's the winner, right? But I did it a lot. I did it like 5 times, but there was definitely once or twice I didn't do it. So, why? Why did you guys
Exams.
exams? Okay.
Work.
Okay. Mine was Shabbos, life. I think where we messed up, if we really want to make it a habit, which is all about consistency, is we need to pick a specific time when we will, we very precisely defined, and right after we do some other action, then we will gratitude. It might work here and there otherwise. It could work. But for sure it will work if we commit ourselves that right after dinner, because we always eat dinner, or right after whatever, Mariv, shower, something, then I will gratitude journal. That would be much more effective.
Exactly, for Jewish people, it's hard to
Nachon.
like pick up a routine, especially like because we were gonna do like gratitude journaling like right before bed every night, but then right after like Thursday night it was Shabbat and we couldn't do it.
Exactly. First of all, you're right. It's also really hard for me because I'm like a super flexible person to do anything consistently is hard. But you said it perfectly. Right before we go to bed. Big mistake. What instead should you have done? Right after you do some other action. Could be there's an action you do.
Right after Shema, let's say, for example.
Well, if you always say Shema. But sometimes if you forget Shema, then that's not a good. I don't know. Some people shower every night. So right after you shower, then. Right after you eat dinner, then. That would be much more effective because it's linked, there's a trigger. Whereas right before, there's no trigger. Yeah?
But what if you pick up the routine and then like Shabbat? It's like hard, I feel like.
You have to think before, plan in advance of a routine that will not contradict any other values. So like, maybe think of a different thing. And I'm defined within the strategy. On Friday afternoons, I'm going to do it right after I do the other.
After showering makes sense because
After shower.
you'll shower every Shabbos anyway, right? So.
Right. Dave, you want to try it again?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. By the way, I'm curious. Do you do it right after, or you just have a
I
different
didn't
system?
know about the right after, so I do it before going to sleep. And the Shabbat, I did it before Shabbat came in.
Yeah. Okay. Again, it's not like this is the only way that anything can be ingrained within you. I just think it's a really nice
Yeah.
nuance, which can help a lot of people like me, like who struggle with flexibility, who like always want to do a million things. Okay. Good. Another thing that that he talks about, but I'll call it the Zorro effect, based off of The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. He introduced me to this concept. Has anyone heard of Zorro?
Yes.
Okay, good. So who is Zorro? Can you tell us?
Zorro was like the, I think, Mexican version of Robin Hood.
Mhm.
Like, he would, he had a sword, he had a mask, and, he would battle evil, and he was known for like marking everything with a Z for Zorro.
Z for Zorro.
Yeah.
Shalom. Okay, cool. Excellent. So what's the Zorro effect? So basically, at some point, Zorro was very ineffective at his. He tried to battle all the bad guys, and he wasn't being successful. And he's like, "This is too hard. I can't do it. I'm just one man." He was drinking, and he was just losing himself. Then his mentor, Don Diego, says, "Stop trying to focus on everything. Instead, focus on this circle. The circle will be your world." Okay? And basically his only job is to
Just like
defend
peace.
this welcome. His only job is to defend the circle. That's all he has to do with his life. Right? It's also similar to in Karate Kid, when all he has to do is like wipe the wax on, wax off, whatever. For those who remember. The point is that, just be careful with that. Yeah. Excellent. The point is that he's learning willpower. And once he masters that little circle, then he becomes awesome at everything. Because he's trained his brain to know that you can overcome this one habit and that can change everything. Okay? So what the Zara effect tells us is focus on small incremental changes, and success feeds on itself. Once you've mastered one thing, you want to master another thing, another thing. But if you try to make too big goals, then you're gonna probably fail. Make tiny little goals, master them, and then make more tiny little goals. Lots and lots of little goals will make huge, big change eventually. Shooting too far right in the beginning will make failure and giving up. It might be a little confusing. All right, we might just have to give up. We're trying.
We could open the door.
We could open the door, yeah, just make it a breeze. It's a great idea. Yeah, okay.
You just turn it off.
Yeah.
Peace.
Okay. Cool. So that was tip number 3. We got the after them, we got the Zara effect. Everybody with me so far?
Wait, no. What was?
One was really just reviewing of don't focus on discipline, don't focus on willpower, focus on the habits held by deeply values. The after then strategy. After I shower, then I'll journal. 3 is the Zara effect, which is don't focus on big goals, focus on tiny little goals and master it. Okay, so for example, don't say, I'm never, for someone who's overwhelmed, don't say I'm gonna run a marathon and run 20 miles. Say every day I'm gonna commit myself to running for 5 minutes. No matter what, I will commit myself to running for 5 minutes. Now hopefully once you're already running for 5 minutes, or 3 minutes, hopefully you're running for 3 minutes, you're gonna also wanna run for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But that's not important. The important thing is that you don't break the chain. You just do your 3 minutes, and then success will feed on yourself. Yes, for me, sure. And then eventually you'll just want to do more and more and more because you'll be convinced that you're so awesome. And you'll convince your brain will be convinced that you can do this. Yeah?
Amen.
Awesome. Okay. A 4th little tip I call thinking ahead and make your habits convenient. Okay? Or what Aker calls the 20-second rule, which is small little changes to your environment can have huge effects to what you ultimately end up embracing, the actions, the choices you make. So, some examples he gives. Let's say you're trying to quit your habit of watching TV when you get home and you're exhausted. So one thing you can do is you move the remote to the other room. Even though technically you just walk 10 seconds and go to the other room. But in the 10 seconds in walking there is inconvenient and you'll hopefully choose a better action. That's in terms of a negative, right? Another very, very common mistake people make is they're trying to cut down sweets and chocolates and whatever and stuff from their diet. They buy it from the supermarket and they put it in the cupboard and they say, no, it's just for Shabbos, it's for a special event, right? But then what happens when they're in a bad mood and the willpower is down? The ice cream's right there. It's calling. So the battle was lost in the supermarket. The battle was not lost when you open the fridge. So if you change your environment and just don't put any ice cream in your house, then yeah, you could always go to the supermarket and get that ice cream. But are you really gonna bother and leave your house when you know it's not you probably won't, right? So thinking ahead of changing your environment will create huge changes. Or something another idea, let's say I want to play guitar more in my chabura. So I could leave it in my room. It's 3 seconds away. But that one change of putting the guitar right there reminds me visually and makes it that much easier to actually play the guitar, except it's out of tune, but in theory. You get it? Thinking ahead is crucial, and changing your environment in order to affect huge change. Everybody Everybody with me so far?
Yep.
Or as Peter Bregman writes, don't write a book, write a page. I could write one little page. Oh, that was actually connected to the other thing. What Aker did is he wanted to start running every day in the morning, like Rob does. So what did he do? He put his gym shoes and slept in his gym shoes. It's a pretty extreme way of doing it, but it worked until eventually he became, it became normal. But maybe another way for us is more realistic. You put your clothing, your gym shoes, right next to your bed. It's right there. It's much easier. You don't have to struggle with it. Yes, no. You plan ahead when you're in a good mood. You have the mochin de gadlus, and then you can change the mochin de gadlus. Even when okay, all right. And one final little tip as for creating beautiful new habits. It's called the don't break the streak method. Okay? What's that about? So, Daniel Kahneman is a very famous Nobel Prize winner, I think the only one in economics. I'm pretty sure he's Jewish too. Kahneman. And Kahneman. Yeah. Also, I'll send you if you want the notes later. But basically, what he proved is something amazing. We all know intuitively. We're all much more scared of losing than the reward we get out of winning. We're more afraid of messing up and losing out and FOMO and missing out than we are of gaining. Right? That's the way our brain has been wired for some reason. Right? So for example, it hurts us a lot more if we lost 100 shekel on some bad decision than if we gained 100 shekel. The amount of pain is much greater than the amount of pleasure. How can we use that for our advantage? Oh, I'll give you a great example of when this comes up. The Omer, Sfirat Omer, right? Has anyone ever gotten to like the 45th day of the Omer, and then something happened? They dropped the ball.
Right. There's also like just having a set time frame. What did you say? The streak, right?
It's all about the streak.
The streak. I was saying just also having a set time frame and knowing that, like, all right, you don't need to be perfect, but for now, can you do it? Yeah, you can do it.
Right.
One day, can you do it? All right. Yeah.
Right. Not looking too far ahead. Exactly. But I was just saying in terms of Sfirat Omer, first of all, that's cool because I always do it right after Mariv. So that's the trigger. That helps me. But in Sfirat Omer, it's happened to me where I've been into like the 46th day, and then like I got confused about the day, and I miscounted, and it was done. It hurt so much. Even though technically, why should I feel so bad? Like I got 46 mitzvahs. Like
Yeah, the environment helps with that too. I mean, having a minion.
No.
Like 1 year, I missed the Omer altogether just because being in Kusla Eretz and being in a community where there's no minion.
oi.
So then I totally forgot. I didn't even think about it.
Right.
So
So that goes back to environment. That goes back to the environment thing. But I was just pointing out that when you have a streak, it really hurts when you lose the streak. Right? Especially when you have a big streak and you really don't want to break the streak because we like keeping the streak. Right? So the fact that I have stickers, Asher Yetzer stickers every day means I really don't want to break that streak tomorrow. I want to get more Asher Yetzer stickers tomorrow. Yeah? So what? So the way to utilize this is in the old-fashioned way to get a big calendar. To make a commitment for one thing that you're going to do, and then every day that you do it, give yourself a check or an X. And then you visually see every day that you're succeeding. And then by the 10th day, you're really not going to want to break that streak. It's going to really hurt you to break that streak. Yeah? So the don't break the streak method is really, really effective in helping us do it. Nowadays, they also have apps. If you guys want, I have one on my phone. Habitify and Life, whatever, that is similar to where you see like check, and then there's like a big X if I mess up and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
it's a good idea. I can get it's free apps also, so I can give you guys the app names, or we can do it together. Okay. We talked about changing our environment a little bit. Bezrat Hashem, in the future we'll talk more about it, about changing. Okay. Now, in the Jewish context, has anyone heard of, where else do we see in the Jewish context this idea of a streak? It's more of a segula, but there is such a concept.
40 days.
40 days, exactly. And so that was the first thing that came to my mind, the idea of like 40 days in a row. Has anyone here ever gone to like the Kotel for 40 days or done something for a very long time?
Can I tell you about something? I was
Yeah.
doing something earlier this year that there was someone who, like, based on 40 days, he made the thing, like, to change a midah, right? You have a midah, work on it for 40 days, and he has this, like, program for what to do.
Yeah, the 40-day program. Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
thought it was very,
Yeah.
it was, like, just enough where I was, like,
Yeah,
very hard. Like, 40 days is a long time.
Yeah, nachon.
But at the same time, it's enough that you can, like,
Make the habit.
I think
Exactly.
so.
So it's actually based on the Noam Elimelech.
Right, that's what he said.
So I'm gonna read it for you.
Cool, sorry.
The Rebbe, no, actually, I got it from him.
Spoiler.
I got it from him.
It's a spoiler.
I got the idea from him.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. So in Elimelech religions, my great grandfather's Rebbe, claim is coming. So he says like this: if a person was born with a stubborn nature, he should break his nature for 40 consecutive days, doing the opposite of what comes naturally to his mind. A person should accustom himself to do every action promptly, be it going to sleep, waking up in the morning, getting dressed and washing hands, cleaning his body, as well as going to the synagogue and praying. A person whose speech, because of the nature of his tongue, it is not clear or well arranged, should accustom himself for 40 consecutive days of listening to speeches that are uttered naturally, be it worldly or spiritual matters or while studying. Know that a habit becomes power that governs. Okay? So the Rebbe Reb Melech, hundreds of years ago back in Europe, is saying that if you do something 40 days, it can change your brain. Okay? Which is amazing because that's exactly what modern science tells us, that in order to change a new habit, it depends on the habit. Some say 21 days, some are 60 days. It really depends what type of habit we're talking about here. But in any case, 40 days is a nice round
40
number.
represents rebirth.
I was going to say, so what else? 40 is rebirth. Where else is 40?
Yeah, rebirth of the world in 40 days. 40 days in a mikvah.
40 days on a mikvah, 40 days
Mabul.
Mabul, 40 days on Har Sinai. Right? So 40 is rebirth and starting afresh.
40 days a baby in the womb comes living.
Nachon. So
What?
40 days where the soul, a certain part of the soul goes into the embryo.
No, you consider life.
Right. Because it's got a certain degree of soul. Yeah. So that's perhaps 40. I don't know if that's the source for going to the kotel for 40 days. I don't know what the
I've
source is.
never heard that one. What's going on with 40 days?
Again, I don't know what the source is, right? But people do it.
It's so many.
It might just be a shtick.
It's a good shit.
But in any case,
Shark
I've done it. It's fun.
Someone told me to read Tikkun Tali for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't manage the whole 40 days. But
Shark too.
Still time.
Just getting the habit of doing it.
If somebody
Most
lives by the
days.
hotel, does it count?
Also for
So I lived in the old city, so. Actually, I didn't do it out in the old city. I did it when I was in Achlot.
That's crazy.
So,
When you're working at a right then?
yeah. But it wasn't so bad. Oh, like twice a week. But yeah.
So this is a class on positivity, right, or something like that?
This specific class is focused on changing habits. In general, the Simcha seminar is focusing on
So are there
Torah
cer-
and positive psychology.
yeah, so are there certain habits that lead to simcha?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the next, all the following
Okay.
weeks.
All right.
That's why I said this is an introductory course.
Okay.
Where in order to understand this is like the intro of, we're not just going to learn about singing and dancing, we need to make it a habit. You need to have this information in order to, as a stepping stone for everything we're going to talk about in the future. But don't worry, at the end of class, we're going to actually take this and pick a new habit that we want to form and then start doing it.
Mhm.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
So now we mama spoiled it. Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's good. I'm just joking. By the way, I'm not going to get into this too much, but this is also a little bit of the basis of Rav Dessler. He has a beautiful essay called The Bechira Point.
Right.
So we're discussing right now is basically, he says all of life is this battleground between the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, and what you're not fighting about is the habits you've already formed. And the battleground is, now that you form those habits, forming new habits, good habits. That's the battleground of life. That's what life's all about. And that's really where Hashem rewards you when you're fighting new battles. But that's a different year. And as I mentioned in the beginning, of course, as much as I'm telling us all these cute tricks and all, whatnot, ultimately tefillah, prayer, is the key to everything. And we say this every day in our davening. Yiratzon u'fanecha, shalom kenu akenu, shetargilenu b'toratecha. How do we translate shetargilenu b'toratecha? Change our habits. Make our habits Torah. Make it natural for us to love Torah. And we say that every day in Birchas HaShachar. at the end of Birchat HaShachar. So, without tefillah, of course, we have no chance. Okay, one cute little story that I think is a nice way to bring this point home. Got it from H.com.
Nice.
Okay. Lisa Allen was 34 years old, had started smoking and drinking when she was 16 and had suffered from obesity for many years. Her longest job had lasted less than a year, and collection agencies were constantly calling her to recover over $100,000, $10,000 in debt. One day her husband came home and announced that he was leaving her. Lisa fell into a deep depression. Not knowing what else to do and having always wanted to see the pyramids, Lisa decided to go to a trip to Egypt. On her first morning there, she woke up in her hotel room and reached for a cigarette. She didn't realize that she was actually trying to light a pen until she smelled burning plastic. Feeling more depressed than ever before, she left the hotel to see the pyramids. But you have to go to that crash very often before you start going up. But when she stood in the middle of the enormous desert, something shifted within her. Suddenly she thought that maybe what she really needed was a goal, some kind of direction for her life. And so on the way back to the hotel in the taxi, Lisa decided that in 1 year she would return to Egypt and hike across the desert. The idea didn't make any sense. She was overweight, had no money, didn't know the name of the desert she was looking for, or even if the trip would be possible. But Lisa needed something to strive for, and the desert trek became her focus. And she knew that in order to survive the hike, she would need to quit smoking. So over the next 6 months, Lisa replaced smoking with jogging. And that one habit set off a chain of whole series of changes in her life. It changed how she worked, ate, slept, and saved money. When she made the trek across the desert 1 year later in the air-conditioned motorized tour with a half dozen other tourists, the caravan carried so much food, water, tents, and global positioning systems that she probably would have accomplished her goal without giving up smoking. But she hadn't known that when she first set her goal. And by the time she made her way across the desert, her smoking habit had already been replaced. A few years later, Lisa lost 60 pounds, bought a house, went back to school for a degree, became engaged, and held the same job for more than 3 years. She agreed to participate in a scientific study examining how forming new habits affects our brains. And researchers saw something fascinating when they looked at images of Lisa's brain. Her old habits, detected from a set of neurological patterns, were still visible on the brain scan. But they were being crowded out and overrun by her new habits and urges. But the scans also revealed that the areas of her brain associated with the addictive craving and hunger were still active. Her brain was still producing urges that made her smoke and overeat. The difference is that the newer, stronger activity in the area of Lisa's brains where self-discipline and inhibition begin. And that activity kept getting stronger every time the scientists took a new brain scan. So I thought that was amazing, because it shows that you literally can reprogram your brain, as we talked about last week, right? Rewiring your brain, and how we absolutely can change our brains to wire ourselves towards happiness. And that happens even though there's still that yearning, but we replace it with good habits, and eventually if we just stick to it long enough, for 3 weeks, 40 days, whatever it is, it will be so much more powerful, and one step will lead to the next step. Okay, so just a 2-minute review of what we've learned in this little shir, and then we're going to do the exercise to summarize. So we started off talking about how we all have struggles. We have the desires we want to do, we want to succeed, but we don't know how to make it happen. Okay? And so I said we're going to talk about forming new habits as the crux, and I guess next week, B'ezrat Hashem, because I don't want to go too long, we'll talk about accountability and commitments as the other pieces of the puzzle. Okay? Then we spoke about the Vilna Gaon and the Baal Shem Tov, who both came together and said, change your habits, change your life, and your habits become you. William James agreed, we are our habits. We are not sad or happy or good, or we are whatever habits we choose. And we talked about neurologically how the neurons become stronger and stronger as we become better at it. And I talked a little bit about how halacha is, Baruch Hashem, forming these habits. And, and then we gave a few tips as to how to form new habits, small things, achievable, rewards, the Zaro effect, the right after effect, and don't break the streak. Make the streak, mark it visibly, make the sticker chart, and you don't want to you don't want to lose. Okay? Spoke about Rav Elimelech 40 days in a row, and ended with the essence is tefillah. Okay, beautiful. What I want us to do right now, to end off this Haley Ashir, is let's decide how to do this. I want us to pick a habit, a new habit that we'd like to form. Don't make it tremendously hard. Don't make it like your world's biggest battle, like whatever. Make it something easy, something really easy, something that you a little bit want to change about yourself, something not meaningless, but that you've always wanted to change. And write it down, and you could write 5, like write 10, brainstorm, and then pick 1 or 2 if you can't decide. And I'd like us to kind of, for a week, until next week, if you guys come back, and if not, I can WhatsApp you, whatever. Commit yourself to change this thing about yourself. One specific thing, using the right after methodology, i.e., after I pick something you always do, I will do this, and then do it. And then we'll report back to each other regarding how that was and how that felt. And Bezrat Hashem, we can take it further and further in future classes. So everybody take a pen, if you want, or a phone if that's easier for you. And we'll just brainstorm a little bit. Take a few minutes to write a few habits that you're thinking of doing. And then if you feel comfortable, we'll go around and try to, don't make it your most deepest, darkest secret. something that you can be held accountable for.